policing sympathy is kind of fucked up. Was watching Destiny video. Yeah, it's Destiny video. So of course there's going to be sometimes, or as generally, I agree with most liberals on most things, and we disagree on small things. This is one of the things I disagree with him on. Emma was crying, talking about the current and future death that's going to happen to the Palestinian people. Destiny seems to think, he said, for one, and quote was, he said, if I say these are crocodile tears, that's me being nice. And his interpretation is, like, clearly this is part of her manipulation to get more, to basically to, influence the left-leaning audience that they have. And if it's not crocodile tears, it's evil, because he didn't see her cry for the Israeli people, and now she's crying only for one side. So selective, meaning her selective tears or selective sympathy. Like, so here's where I can try to understand where Destiny's coming from. Like, people were to that point. A similar amount of total deaths had happened. I think it was like 800, 700. I don't know which. I think maybe 800 dead. 800 dead Palestinians, and then I think like 700 dead. It's somewhere around that, near 1,000 on both sides. So, in a vacuum, it's like, well, if you're sad about death, you should be sad about death all around. Like, children were killed in both sides, right? Like, why are you only tearing up and talking about Gaza? If you don't care about Israeli deaths, like, how could you be so, like, is your political divide so ingrained in your brain that you can only feel sympathy to people who are on your political spectrum's sympathy list? And that's where my understanding of Destiny's points ends right there. So here's the other thing is, you don't know what emotional reaction she had about the Israeli deaths off camera or on another video. He's not watching every single one of her videos. They have the full TV show. It's live streamed all the time. He's not watching everything. He's just watching clips. Now, I'm certain there probably would have been a clip that they would have also seen if she cried about Israeli deaths. I'm pretty sure she probably didn't cry about Israeli deaths on camera. However, you don't know what her emotional reaction was to those deaths off camera. You don't know if she was usually composed about most of these issues and then she just suddenly broke down. Maybe she's got, I know she cried about, I think she cried about some trans-related issue too. No, she got really emotional. There's certain topics where she got really emotional. So for one, again, starters, you don't know what her reaction was off camera. You don't know how much it was boiling up. You just can't say, you can't say with confidence where her emotions were about both of these deaths before and afterwards, and if it just kind of got to a boiling or a tipping point. You could just be seeing the, let's move on. Okay, so that's the first point. Second point, there can be sympathies that are equal, but the reaction is going to change because of the future outcomes, right? Notice I said the future death, what's going to happen to the Palestinian people. Like, the deaths are not going to be rising as high on the Israeli side, right? On top of that, what's going to happen to the Israeli side will, listen, I'm just gonna say just death, right? Like, the murdering, kidnapping that's happening, it's probably going to be diminishing at a higher rate from Hamas being able to effectively do so versus the rapid increasing rate that Israel's going to be able to do so. Israel's water supply is still active, right? Israel still has access to food, medicine, water. The Palestinians don't. So, for one, here's the thing. What's partisan is her sympathy. But the reason for her sympathy is so partisan is that one group's been effectively abused for years by the other group and then also being killed, right? So it's like the problem is two people are beating each other up. One of these people has been bullied by the other person for years, right? So like if you're more sad about one of these deaths, one of these incidents, like it's because there's more emotional weight, there's more bad things that have happened to one group than the other. Like it just is the case. Even with at that point roughly equal amounts of death that has happened on those within those 3 days spans, but then decades before that, just an untold amount of unfair, horrible things that have happened to Palestinian peoples. It's not even remotely similar. So maybe that's got part of where sympathies are coming from. And then again, the future turmoil and suffering, like the lack of access to, they already had lack of access to a lot of resources, right? We know that most of the Palestinian population, the average age is like 18. Large percentage of the population just is children, so deaths that happen on the Palestinian side are more than likely going to just be children, more likely than deaths on the Israeli side. It's like there's reasons for there to be increased amount of emotional reaction on the Palestinian side than the Israeli side, if you're a non-biased observer. Now she's biased, obviously she's biased towards Palestinians, like we know that, but like just looking at objectively the amount of suffering, like, because again, I don't cry about any of these things. Like, I don't feel heavy emotions towards much, but I do think that there's a right and wrong and morals and whatnot here. So I'm never going to cry about any of this. That's just not how I'm going to be. But as someone that's not going to feel cry about any of this, still could understand. I have to understand, like, since I don't feel something towards anything, what's a reasonable time to feel something. I have to look at it a little bit more objective. And I don't think Destiny was willing to do that. I think he saw someone who he disagrees with, he thinks he's partisan, and was unwilling to open up objective to, like, wait, why could someone show one-sided sympathy? Like, I get it. Well, here's the thing. Like, it seems like, look, from the surface, it seems like, hey, if you're only being sympathetic to one side, that makes you a bad person because bad things are happening on both sides. But there's a reason that I don't think is a great reason. Look, I'm not like, no, it's okay to only care when Palestinians die. You don't have to care when Israeli people die. I've never really talked about many people about it, but in general, like, my statements are, death and murder are bad on all sides. It should never happen. You shouldn't be okay. People who are pro-Palestine should not be okay with the horrible actions that Hamas is doing. And people that support Israel's ability to defend themselves should not be okay with the, cutting off food supplies and the indiscriminate bombing and then the attacking of the evacuation routes that Israel is doing, right? But yeah, that's basically the point, right? There's understandable reasons why a person might be more sad for one side than the other without them being evil. Without being an evil person, you could just be more sad about one side than the other, right? But that's about it. Like what Sully would like to subscribe to. I'm just kidding, don't do a crime, and I'm out.